I'm delighted to be here back in Quincy. My daughter and son-in-law went to college here at Eastern Nazarene College, just down the street, really. In fact, my son-in-law, Jeremy Anderson, made the Hall of Fame. He was a captain of their baseball team, and then from there, after he was graduated, he came back as assistant baseball coach for a few years, and they continue to be active at the college in various ways. Now, today I'd like to talk to you about being safe during times of emergency. Now, years ago, when I started doing public speaking, about 100 years ago, a wise old pastor took me aside and he said, "Doug, whatever you do, if you're going to be speaking in public, remember the 11th commandment." Well, I sort of knew the top 10, but the 11th, he let me hang for a second, and then he said, "Doug, blessed are the brief, for they shall be invited back." And so I'll keep things moving. I'll do it, I guarantee it, under 45 minutes. We'll see how it goes, but we're going to keep things moving today. Now, we live in one of the safest places in the whole world. I've responded many times to flooding in Quincy and other things, but you see what's happening on the news in other parts of the world and even other parts of our own country. And usually we're gathering stuff to help other places. But just like the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, we want to be prepared. We want to be prepared for emergencies. And we want to make sure that we're prepared, our families, our friends, and our neighbors are ready too. And so I'm going to encourage you to reach out to them as well. Now, we have a great guide that MEMA put out a while back, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. It's Be Informed, Make a Plan, Build a Kit, and Get Involved. The first step is to be informed. We need to know what kind of hazards can happen in our area. Now, I mentioned flooding. What other things could happen, especially this time of year? Tornadoes. We just had that. We responded with a team down to the Cape to help with tornadoes, but they can happen anywhere. Some people think they're out west, or at least western Massachusetts, but they can happen anywhere. What else could we expect? Hurricanes. So we want to be prepared for hurricanes. And so we want to follow them as they come up the coast and be prepared and ready. Even if we're in a low hurricane year, and sometimes we are, that's a better thing, but it only takes one hurricane to cause a lot of trouble. And we know that from Hurricane Bob, it caused millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of damage. So we want to be prepared. We want to keep track when something's happening. So we want to be informed, so you should listen to your television, especially cable TV for local news. You want to listen to radio stations and even the newspapers. They all can be helpful, and you want to be informed. Now, there's a thing on here called Massachusetts Alerts, and we had that downloaded to your cell phone to alert you when there's an emergency. But we switched that. Now, it's available on everybody's cell phone, and it's automatic. You have to specially opt out. Please don't opt out. But it's going to be there. My daughter was in South Yarmouth during the tornadoes, and her phone went off, and it was the emergency alert, take cover. And she did with her two little girls, and she got in a little hallway. They didn't have a real basement. She got in the hallway, and she was all set to go, and she was safe. Trees where she was staying fell in the yard, but she was safe because they weren't in the yard and they weren't out driving, thanks to the emergency alerts. And Massachusetts can put that out whenever you need it. And if your director of emergency management needs an alert put out for some reason, we're happy to do it for them. So anything that's a big emergency, something really serious, we can do that, and that's what we want to do for you. Well, we're fortunate here in Quincy. We have a fantastic emergency management department. I know these folks real well, and they do a great job. Also, your police and fire, they're just as professional as can be. So we're lucky. We live in a safe place, and we have tremendous public safety and tremendous depth in that area. So we want to be informed. Next thing we need to do is to make a plan. We need to have a plan for every type of emergency so we're ready to go. So we're not thinking about it later on. We can just do our checklist and we're ready to go. The second something happens, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this or that or whatever it might be. For instance, and we have samples here that will help you put together plans for any hazard you might have around the house. The first one I think of is fires. And that's a very common thing that we have to worry about in homes. Fortunately, our homes are much safer than they were a number of years ago. In Christmas, we don't put live candles on the tree anymore. Please don't. But back in the day, they did. and our electricity is much safer, and so we don't have to worry as much. We still want to decide what we're going to do before there's a fire. You might say, Doug, I'm all set. I got a fire extinguisher. Well, that's wonderful. Make sure you take it out of the box, it's mounted on the wall, and you know how to use it. Also remember, a fire extinguisher is a defensive weapon, not offensive. You use it to get out. So use your fire extinguisher to get out of the house and call the fire department. They'll put out the fire. That's their job. And whenever I think about fire extinguishers, I think of Tom Brady. He throws that perfect pass to Gronkowski, and they win the game. Isn't that great to watch? Well, so remember PASS, P-A-S-S. So you have your fire extinguisher, you pull the pin out. Okay, that's the first step. The second step is that you aim your fire extinguisher at the base of the flames, okay? And you squeeze the trigger and you sweep back and forth at the base of the flames. Now my sister was in a very wealthy home, multi-million-dollar home, and there was a fire in the kitchen. No visible fire extinguisher. She was waitressing that day, and so she looked around. No one could find the fire extinguisher. She sort of guessed. She says, I'll bet it's like under the kitchen sink. And sure enough, there it was, still in its original box. She grabbed it, quick squirt, and the fire was out. But they could have lost that whole house. There's another time in Chicago, in a big bank building, and they had glass windows. And all of a sudden, there was a fire in a wastebasket. Not too serious, but no one called 911. For a long time, no one had a fire extinguisher, and no one left the building. Not a good situation. Well, finally, one of the young interns had the idea to go get the fire extinguisher off the wall, which he did. Now, he had several college degrees. He grabbed it, he pulled the pin, so far so good, right? But then he threw it like a hand grenade at the fire. All that did was spread the fire. Fortunately, someone finally called the fire department, and the fire was put out quickly, and everyone was safe. But you need to know how to use it properly. So it's pull the pin, aim it at the base of the flames, and you squeeze the triggers, and you spray back and forth at the base of the flame. So there's a fire at the door, it's the only way out. Fortunately, we have lots of ways out, but if that's the only way, you just squirt it around the door, get yourself out. Yep.
How long does a charge last in a fire extinguisher?
We check it, I think it's, we check ours at MEMA and at my house every year. We have it checked annually. They don't always recharge it, but we have it checked and retagged every year just to be safe. And it doesn't cost much. It's probably good for 2 or 3 years, but I don't want to officially say that because I think it should be checked just like your smoke detector batteries every year. So that's important.
Who checks where your light up?
I don't know if the fire department does it here or not, but certainly there are companies that do it. We have a private company that comes in, and it only takes a couple minutes, and they check each one, and they retag them so we know they're fresh and ready to go. So that's a good way to go. Just remember, though, you want to get out. So you yell fire, you get your family out, and you call 911. You should have a meeting place, maybe the neighbor's yard or across the street, where you can go and count heads and make sure everybody's out. If not, tell the fire department. Do not go back in for stuff. You're much more important than anything in that house. We want you to stay safe. A lot of people will scurry around and try and grab important records or this or that, and that can be deadly. So we want to get everyone out of the house and call the fire department. It's their job to put out the fire. Okay, so that's make a plan. And that's just one plan, but there's others in the book that we can share with you. The next thing is to build a kit. And we want to have a lot of them, good things in that kit. And they talk about food, and a change of clothes, and water, and food, and a first aid kit, and things like that. But you know what gets me, that I think is really important? Your prescription medication. Because if you have to go to a shelter, you want to have that prescription with you. Now, if you're on the road, and it says, you get an emergency alert, it says, do not go home, go right to the shelter. You say, oh no, I have no medication with me. That's okay. The emergency management folks will wake up your doctor at 3 a.m. They'll go to CVS and open the store if it's closed. They'll go to the hospital. They'll get you your medication. But if you can take care of the medication yourself, that's one more first responder that our director has to go out and help other people. So the more you can take care of yourself, you in turn are actually helping your neighbors. The other thing that you want to have is a spare pair of eyeglasses. You might say, Doug, I have my eyeglasses on my head. I'm wearing them. What's the problem? Well, one of my coworkers rescued someone during a big storm, and he was successful. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, in the process, his eyeglasses flew off his head, across the parking lot, never to be seen again. That was it. They were gone. So the next 2 weeks, he was working in an underground bunker with prescription sunglasses. At least he had those. So it's good if you can bring your, make sure you have your eyeglasses with you in your little kit. So those are some of the things you can put in the kit. And we'll go into that a little bit more later. And then you want to get involved. We have a great emergency management program in town. We have a great senior center. I've seen the building. It's wonderful. And you could volunteer right here, or you could volunteer for emergency management and help out. There are things that everyone can do. You say, well, Doug, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but we might need someone just to sit at a table and register people or hand out water. So you could be involved and you could help out. The other thing is you can get involved in a program called VOAD, Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. And that includes the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the Mennonites, Catholic Charities, and so many other groups. I call them good deeds looking for a place to happen. And what you want to do, though, is join up with a group that you're comfortable and familiar with. You're already a member of their club or their house of worship. That's the one to get involved with. But you can get involved with the city or with a private nonprofit and assist in some way. So that's one of the ways you can get involved. Now, what we're going to do is show a quick video and about the disaster supplies kits, only about 6 or 8 minutes, and then there'll be a test.
Tell you what, let's go over this together for just a minute here. It says you may need to survive on your own after a disaster. This means having your own food, water, and other supplies in sufficient quantity to last for at least 3 days. Local officials and relief workers, I guess that's police, firefighters, EMTs, that sort of thing, will be on the scene after a disaster, but they may not be able to reach everyone immediately. You could get help in hours, or it may take days. So we need to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Hey, give you a little pop quiz here. Can you name any of the services and things we might have to do without during a disaster? See how much you know.
Maybe stuff like our water,
All right?
gas, electricity, phone lines, and our sewage treatment.
Very good. You just named all of them. That's right. We may have to do without all of those for days or even a week or longer. Very good. I'm impressed.
Thanks.
We may have to evacuate at a moment's notice and take essentials with us. And that means that since we probably won't be able to shop for those supplies or even look for them after a disaster, we need to put together a disaster supplies kit now.
Yeah.
Let's see. A disaster supplies kit is a collection of basic items that members of a household may need in the event of a disaster. Oh, listen to this. Since you don't know where you'll be when an emergency occurs, prepare supply kits for home, work, and vehicles. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's a list of all the items we need for our home disaster supplies kit. There you go.
Hey guys, we're back with the containers. Hey Zach, why don't you go ahead and give me that list?
Oh, I'll take it. There you go.
Thank you. This is great. Looks like we have a lot of these items right here in the cupboard.
Good.
But Zach, I have one more question for you. What do you think is one of the most important items to consider for supplies?
Water.
You're right.
You should store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. A normally active person needs at least a half gallon of water just for drinking each day.
Okay.
Store in a cool, dark place. Hey, we'll need to include some water for Whiskers, too.
Definitely.
Also, put together a 3-day supply of non-perishable food.
So we've got that right here. Okay.
And it says that we should try and avoid foods that'll make us thirsty.
Okay.
Choose salt-free crackers.
Here.
Good.
Okay. Thank
Whole
you.
grain cereals.
And we've got that here.
And canned foods with high liquid content.
Right.
Hey, we'll need to include a manual can opener, too. Use foods before they go bad and replace them with fresh foods. Change stored food and water supplies every 6 months. Be sure to write the date you store it on all the containers.
I can handle that job.
Rethink your needs every year and update your kit as your family needs change. Next year, I'll be eating more, Katie will be eating more.
And I'll be eating less, I hope.
Now we should also keep items in airtight plastic bags and put the entire disaster supplies kit into 1 or 2 easy-to-carry containers.
Right here. Okay.
Wow, this is a lot of stuff.
I've seen you eat that much food in one weekend.
You know, it does feel pretty good, though, to get all of our food supplies in order.
It really does.
Of course, this isn't everything. We still have to worry about, what, flashlights, batteries, radios, that sort of thing. But we'll get to that later on.
Okay.
Daddy, do you really think that we'll need all of this stuff?
I hope not, sweetie, but it's always a possibility. If a disaster does strike, though, this family is going to be as prepared as possible.
Yes, we will.
Let's get this stored away.
Okay. Daddy, you can put all of the water in here.
That's right. Cool, dark place, right?
Yeah.
What should be in our disaster supplies kit? Anybody? Water. Okay, now remember, these are samples. What else? A can opener. What kind? Hey, very good. Salt-free crackers. Well, I have food. Let's see. I stole this from my daughter. And you don't have to cook it or do anything with it. A flashlight. Very important. So flashlight, and with the flashlight, extra batteries. Let's see if I get one of those in here. There we go, an extra battery to go with it. Now, a radio, that's right. A battery-operated radio with extra batteries for that as well.
Breathing mask.
A breathing mask, I don't have that, so you get an extra magnet today. See, that's good, all right. Now, and the flashlight, you know, more than once over the years, the power's gone out in our house. I'm sure it has for you too. I have, in the front call closet, I have this little Go Kit, and it has a flashlight and extra batteries, and the kids aren't allowed to touch it. They know that's off limits. So when the power goes out, I can sort of feel my way to that closet and get my kit, and I know it's good. Because all the other flashlights I'm going to be using, and they won't be used, able to be used. Now, this one has a magnet on the back. It also has a hook. And you can get them, I'll tell you where later. I'm not going to do a commercial on TV, but you know, that's one of the places, yep. Harbor Freight, good, all right, so you know. But that can go right on your refrigerator. It has a magnet or a hook for your closet or wherever else you might want to put it. And that can be very convenient. And that's another flashlight. You know right where it is. Okay, what else should we have in our kit?
Glasses.
Extra glasses.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter. Well, I got food, but I'll give you an extra magnet. Okay?
Medicine.
Medicine, that's right. We talked about that. Very important to have your prescription medicine.
Phone charger.
A phone charger, that's very good. And you win an extra magnet. So that's important. Now, if you hear a storm coming up the coast, just really a hurricane, or they said it could be a winter storm tonight, charge your cell phone. Have it ready to go. And don't just wear it out with watching lots of videos. Have it ready for real emergency stuff. Now, my daughter she's always on her cell phone. So you know what she does? She has these, and she went to like a dollar store, and she got these little extra blocks that are batteries, and she just plugs that into her cell phone. She's got a fresh charge. So you can have a couple of those as well if you use the cell phone a lot. What else do we need?
Something to do.
Something to do. So we might need videos, and we might need to entertain the kids. Yep, that's an old one. And what else? Glasses we got? Now this is something that's really handy. It's a space blanket. And this is the thing they put on the marathon runners when they come in because it reflects the heat back. And it's only $1 or $2 at a pharmacy or a department store. They're easy to get. And you can put this in your house and have a little kit in your car as well with stuff like this. The other thing you might want to have is a first aid kit. I got a glow stick in here. Personal hygiene items. Here's my toothbrush. And here I have important papers. So you want to have your important papers, a copy of them with you. Now, a number of years ago, I was listening to an interview. A young mom had a fire in her house. Everyone was out safe. That's the most important thing. And she was glad about that. But she said one of the things that really bothered her was not losing the DVD player or the TV or the stereo or any of that stuff. It was her kids' baby pictures. They were gone. So it's important you get a few key photographs that you really, really want to keep forever. Make a copy. Have a family member keep them for you, or a neighbor keep them for you, and they can do the same. You can keep some for someone else. So if there ever were a fire or a flood, and you don't want to lose those pictures, they're somewhere else. You got a backup copy. And the department stores and the pharmacies, again, they have photo machines that can make a professional copy or even just a simple Xerox copy. So those are some of the things we want to have in our kits. Now,
You Xerox.
what's that?
What would you Xerox?
I would Xerox your important papers, but you can even just Xerox some of the photos you want to save. I'd rather you use, I would rather use a more professional machine like a photo. You put it down, scan it, and they make another photo. But you can do that. And then I'd like to talk to you about a little bit about publications and give you some homework, okay? So some of the things that we have on the table today, and I'd like to encourage you to pick up a copy when you're done, is hurricanes. And we have a nice magnet for emergency preparedness. You can put it on your file cabinet or on your fridge. And feel free to take extra for family members or neighbors as you see fit. I have plenty of them. And they just go right on there, and it gives you some good safety tips. And then we have the Emergency Preparedness Guide, and that again has information about the supplies kit right in there. And please grab a copy of that. Preparing Makes Sense for Older Americans, that's me. And Preparing Makes Sense for Pets. You saw Whiskers got his water, didn't he? So we want to make sure that the pets are taken care of too. They're an important part of the family. And then Preparing Makes Sense for people with disabilities and access and functional needs. So this is a good brochure, and I have this one in large print as well, so that can be helpful. And then we have a fact sheet on hurricanes. And then you say, Doug, this is for kids. Why are you giving us this? This is a coloring book. The reason I'm giving this to you is I have 10 grandkids, and they like to come over. And I like to give them a little present, and I want to keep them safe. So when they come over, I give them a little present. They start coloring away. They're happy. They've got a little present, but they're learning how to be safe in emergencies. So take as many of these as you need for young children in your life. Grandkids, great-grandkids, nieces, nephews, whatever it might be. Take as many as you want and share them when they come over. Give them a little present. Now, that's always fun to do. Then the next thing I have, and I have a flyer with the phone number so you don't have to write it down, but it's a book called Are You Ready? It's the most comprehensive book of its kind available today. It covers winter storms, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, which we just had in the Cape, and many, many other things. It also teaches you how to put together a disaster supplies kit and a family emergency plan. All good stuff. There's even little tear-out cards in the back that are great help. Now, this book is worth a lot of money, but it's free from the federal government. But they do want to make sure that only one gets to each household, so you have to order it. So if you call Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, they'll send it out to you free of charge. It's Are You Ready? And it's 1-800-480-2520. Again, that's 1-800-480-2520. And you get that free of charge. There's absolutely no cost to you. And it's also available in Braille. And if you have trouble getting it, I can supply our emergency management director with copies of either the Braille or the print editions. Any questions so far? Oh, sure. It's Are You Ready? And it's 1-800-480-2520. And I have a flyer with that number on it as well. Okay, any other questions? Okay, when I think about emergency management, I'm reminded of the two world's worst golfers. Anybody here golf? Oh, yeah, we got one right there, okay. Anybody in your family golf? Well, they were really nice guys, but they were just terrible. They kind of dug up the course, so they had to play last. Probably as bad as me, well, almost. But anyway, so one day they were up there, and it was finally their turn at the end of the day. Because as I said, they dug up the course. The first one rushes out, he puts his ball on the tee, he leans back, he takes a big swing, and boom! He missed the ball completely, but killed about half the ants in an anthill. So then, not to be deterred, leans back and boom! Kills some more ants. Well, he continued that until there were only 2 ants left. One ant looked at the other and said, if we're going to survive in this environment, we better get on the ball. Thank you for your kind attention.